Hello, everybody. How are you? Welcome to our 6th annual New Horizons in Journalism Conference. I'm Zach Molinex, the Executive Director of the World Press Institute, and so excited to be back in Bulgaria. This is my better half, Camilla Bath, to help introduce the program.
Hi, everyone. Welcome and good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Camilla Bath. I'm the Program Director of the World Press Institute. I'm also thrilled to be back here. This is my 6th time back in Bulgaria, and I just love it more and more every time I'm here. So thank you for coming and thank you for having us. And I wanted to talk briefly about what today's conference is all about. So Bulgaria's media landscape today is one of the most pressured in the EU, and a lot of the dynamics that we're going to be talking about today are visible here more often than elsewhere. So this year's theme is Truth Under Pressure, and we chose it because right now the biggest threats to journalism aren't necessarily the dramatic ones. They can be dramatic too. More often though, they're systemic, they're structural, and they're easy to miss if we stop paying attention. They are easy to normalize as well, and that's the biggest risk of all. So today is about naming those pressures and those risks, seeing them clearly, understanding how they work, and being honest about the trade-offs that we're already making in order to do the journalism that we so desperately need to do. We've got 2 keynotes, we've got 4 short talks, we've got 1 extended panel in the afternoon, also lots of time in between for everyone to discuss and debate and share ideas. That's where the real magic happens, so we really, really hope that you enjoy the day today. For now, though, I'm going to call on Nancy Schiller, the President and CEO of the America for Bulgaria Foundation, who are the reason we are all here today. Thank you so much to say a few words.
Thank you, Camilla. Thank you, Jack. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see so many familiar faces. With this topic, I've been thinking a lot about truth and how its meaning seems to have changed over the years. More than 30 years ago, I was in Washington, D.C. to meet with a high-ranking congressman. My employer was being sued by a well-connected Washington insider. Although the lawsuit was groundless, we needed to defend ourselves not only in the court, but in the court of public opinion. I began by telling the esteemed congressman the truth. He looked at me with a mocking expression, took the cigar out of his mouth, and said, "I don't care about the truth. The truth doesn't matter. Perception matters. Perception is reality, and you have a perception problem." For someone who believes in the truth, this was quite a wake-up call. Fast forward to 2017, Kellyanne Conway's now infamous phrase, "alternative facts," reminiscent of Newspeak from George Orwell's book, 1984. Although published in 1949, thanks to Ms. Conway, the book's sales surged by 9,500%, becoming a #1 bestseller. Fun fact, the dystopian Newspeak of 1984 now seems to be our reality. We are inundated by propaganda, disinformation, AI, algorithms, and social media, all leading to polarization and diminished trust. Many of our elected officials don't seem to be working to restore that trust. The need for quality journalism has never been greater, and your task has never been more challenging. Establishing trust and accountability while adapting to the pressure of ever-changing media environment is not for the faint of heart. The America for Bulgaria Foundation is proud to support this conference together with AEJ Bulgaria and the World Press Institute. We hope that by bringing together journalists media leaders, and civil society, we can think about solutions and maybe release some of the pressure by commiserating just a little bit. ABF's commitment to independent journalism remains, as it has for the past 17 years. Our democracies depend on it. Oh, now, as for the lawsuit, we won the case. And the esteemed congressman, he lost his reelection a few years later. So sometimes the truth wins out. Thank you for being here, and thank you for what you do. I, for one, am grateful. I wish you a successful conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Before we get into today's program, we wanted to start with someone who is very, very familiar, I'm sure, to many of you in this room. Before I get there, though, just a reminder that if anyone would like a set of headphones for translation purposes, they are available just outside the conference venue at the back there. You're welcome to go and grab yourself a pair of those. But right now, I'd love to invite Maria Cheresheva up from the AEJ. There she is. Sorry, Maria, I've been looking for you. Please, you're most welcome.
Здравейте на всички, Hello, everyone. Since the audience is predominantly Bulgarian, I chose to speak in Bulgarian. Of course, there is interpretation provided. Welcome. Last night, I gave a lot of thought to the topic of truth myself. I was trying to draft a few words to say today. So I was thinking on something that somebody said yesterday. Sometimes you have to lie to tell the truth. I tried hard to agree because the conversation was very lively. We were discussing what is it that you have to do to get the truth across to people. But in the end, I said, as a journalist, I simply cannot say yes to this. So we've chosen the hard path here, all of us in this room. I see a lot of students and young people, and I'm really glad to see you all. You are at the beginning of your professional path. It will not be easy, but I think it's great to see you here. I had some things that I wanted to say, but my colleagues brought this. It says, Square Censored. I didn't expect to see this today, but here it is. For our foreign guest, there is a square in Sofia called the Journalist Square, and there is a statue there of Georgi Markov, who is a prominent Bulgarian journalist and author. However, on this sign, it says Square Censored. So we've decided to change the name of that square temporarily and censor ourselves and take this invisible process out, make it visible, because the truth is today more than ever there are brutal forms of censorship around the world, including journalists being murdered. Last year alone, 130 journalists were murdered, and this is the highest count ever since since we've been counting. People have been murdered, imprisoned, their lives are destroyed. Censorship is a fact in Bulgaria, among many places, but censorship is something invisible. It's in the shadows. We know it is there. However, we cannot explain it. We cannot point our fingers at it, mostly because journalists, we don't talk about ourselves. We like to tell other people's stories and put other people in the spotlight. The problem is we are at times where we have to be honest with ourselves and encounter this huge challenge. And we have to be honest with our audience. There is room for honest journalism, and increasingly it happens online. There, the audience is looking for honesty and expects things to be called for what they are. So we decided today to reveal censorship. And go with this provocation. We got in touch with a few local businesses that lent us their advertising signs, and we changed their names to make this point. So I'd like to thank these local businesses. One of them, a local pastry banitsa sellers. They said these are things that everyone thinks of and everyone secretly has at the back of their mind. So they decided to leave the sign that we put up until the end of the month, meaning people want the truth. People don't want to avoid the truth. They don't want to be lied to and misled. We'll discuss this today. We'll hear a lot of examples, both from Bulgaria and from around the world. We'll talk to a lot of journalists who have chosen to remain true to themselves, and we have guests from many different media and places around the world. We have a lot to learn from them, and I hope this will be a very active conversation, because this is how everything should start. The conversation should first of all take place within our own community, and then we have to think about exporting that conversation, opening it up to other people, to society, because it is society that we serve at the end of the day. So I'd like to thank the World Press Institute and the America for Bulgaria Foundation for supporting this conference. I wish you all a very interesting day.
Thank you very much, Maria. And now I'd like to bring up David McDonald from the World Press Institute.
Well, hello all, and good to see you again. This is kind of I think Zach has been to most of these, or maybe all of them, but my sixth conference to speak to you. I'm really excited about our current topics, and I want to welcome you to this conference, Truth Under Pressure. You know, we began these conferences in September of 2021, and I was just kind of looking through the past 5 conferences before this. And the first conference was on journalism in the internet age. Our keynote speaker was John Harris, who was the global editor of Politico. Some of you may have know him. And we also had a very interesting discussion of the missing Bulgarian crypto queen. Is she still missing? I thought so. But you know, we've covered a lot of ground. The next year we had a conference on disinformation and propaganda. The third year we had one mainly on AI. We called it Between Human and Artificial Intelligence. I think maybe Camila, who talks a lot about AI, was at that one. We had one on global elections and democracy, journalism, who tells the story, and now finally Truth Under Pressure. We've had many outstanding speakers from the US, from Europe, and even from Bulgaria at these conferences. But just briefly, for those of you who don't know what the World Press Institute is, the World Press Institute is a nonprofit, private educational NGO based in the US. Our actual base city is Minneapolis, Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul. It's a fairly big metropolitan area. It's 3.5 million people. You know, we've been there for 60 years. I grew up in Minneapolis, St. Paul. I spent some time going to law school in New York, but basically I've lived there most of my life. And I used to have to go around. You know, one of my jobs as I was executive director before Zach, and now I'm executive chair of the board of directors. I would go around and talk to funders and other organizations. And in America, most people know Minneapolis, St. Paul, but when I talk to people outside of that, I would describe it as, you know, the heartland of the US. It's right on the Mississippi River. People would kind of nod, but have no idea where it was. Unfortunately, or fortunately, a lot of people know where Minneapolis is these days. You know, we had the tragic murder of 2 US citizens in January of this year by ICE agents of the federal government. And some people have probably heard Bruce Springsteen's Street of Minneapolis, but I'm really proud of what Minnesotans did with that story. But unfortunately, Minneapolis also was the location of the murder of George Floyd about 5 years ago. And that did lead to a lot of positive reform of policing in the U.S. And today you're going to hear one speaker at least talk about a radio reporter who's covered, I think, both the George Floyd incidents and what followed, and the ICE situation by the federal government in January and February of this year. But switching back to the more positive, WPI has a rich history. Our signature program is a 2-month fellowship program each year. This is going to be our 61st annual fellowship program. We bring 10 international journalists from all over the U.S. We have over 600 alumni journalists who have participated in the program from over 100 different countries. But with the help of the America for Bulgaria Foundation, we've had a Bulgarian journalist now for 12 years in a row. We've had 12, I think, journalists each year sponsored by the America for Bulgaria Foundation, and we've selected, and you'll meet briefly or see the 13th, who's in the audience today. Before I stop, I want to thank the people and some of the organizations that have really helped make this conference possible. Of course, funding and major support for what we do at these conferences and even our fellowship program is from the American for Bulgaria Foundation. Thank you, Nancy Schiller, the CEO and president of that foundation. Desi Talikova is here, I think, executive there, over there. Thank you to Desi, and our current program officer, Victor Asanov, is somewhere in the audience over there. So thank you. And there's many more people at the foundation who have actually been really helpful. Then a key partner in making these conferences a success is the Association of European Journalists Bulgaria. You just heard from Maria Cheresheva. Close. But then, the day-to-day planning of this, there's a lot of people involved from AEG of Bulgaria, but Ivan Radov, the executive director, is here, I think, over there. And Sveti, who's pointing to where Ivan is, are two of the principal people at AEG that have helped us. Finally, I want to praise and thank my staff, or our staff. As I mentioned, I was executive director of WPI for 16 years, and then I got demoted something to executive chair of the board. But Zach Molinex, who you met, and Camilla Bath, are executive director and program director, and have really put this conference together. So thank you, and thank all the other people that have helped to make this possible. So maybe give them a hand there. Finally, let me introduce, just for some brief comments, our 2025 fellow to the World Press. This is Janan Dral. Can you come up? I told her she's a TV person, so I said a minute and a half, which I violated. But she's going to talk just a few minutes about last year's program and introduce this year's fellow.
Thank you, David, and hello, everyone. I remember standing in the very same room a year ago when I was selected to be the Bulgarian WPI Fellow, feeling all shy and uneasy. And even after being a broadcast journalist for more than a decade, I've been covering all sorts of stories around the world. I was way too socially awkward for a journalist. And then it all changed when I went to the States, because I realized that the 9 amazing weeks I spent there, I realized that if I'm able to meet all sorts of people from DC to New York, from Texas all the way up to Alaska, if I'm able to sit at the very same table with the people who officially or not are forming the policies of the White House and even argue with them, if I'm able to meet so many amazing experts from different media outlets, if I'm able to have interesting discussions with experts, some of them who are also attending today's conference, then what is stopping me? I realized that I was even able to participate in panels, and people were actually interested to listen to what I had to say. So I came back here so much more confident, and it helped me so much with my work. Being a WPI fellow is a blessing and a privilege, and also it's tons of fun, mind you. And if you're lucky, like I was, you're also going to be meeting friends, some of which one of my fellows, my Italian sister, Francesca Cantu, is here. So for me, it's a privilege, and I'm thrilled to announce this year's Bulgarian Fellow, the amazing Miss Yana Borzakova, a foreign news editor for BTV. Yana, I have been admiring your work from afar, and I know that so many great things are waiting for you there. So you should know WPI is a family, and it's a privilege for me to welcome you into our family. Congratulations for being selected.
Yana, we're really looking forward to getting to know you in the US a little later this year. Very excited to welcome you to the family. So everyone, with that, we're going to kick off the official program for today, and we'd like to call up our first speaker for the morning, first of our 4 short talks this morning, and that's Maria Tsantsorova, a name I'm sure many of you will know. She's the founder of Off Air, and her experience at BTV is a sharp example of exactly what we're here to talk about today. So what happens to journalists, not through censorship necessarily, but through sidelining. Maria, thank you so much for joining us.